everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on volume 4 of Heaven Official's Blessing, chapters 126 and 127. Yeah, so last week was pretty long. The last several weeks, basically this entire volume has been an insane roller coaster that has led to some insane reveals, and we're getting to the last chunk, which is exciting, but we still have quite a bit of Heaven Official's Blessing to go. I'm really excited. I'm very excited for it's pretty much May is going to be my birthday month, but also it's like MXTX May, because we're not only reading volume 4, the final volume of Modao Zushi is coming out this month, and I've pre-ordered it, so I'm excited. And volume 6 of Heaven Official's Blessing is coming to my doorstep this month. Super excited about that. When I get it in, I'm going to bring the box here, put it in my lap, open it up, and we're going to get to see the cover reveal. I have avoided spoilers. I've been really good. I want to see what this cover looks like when it comes in, so that'll be really fun. So I'm excited. That basically will set us up with a lot of Heaven Official's Blessing for a good part of the rest of the year. So good deal. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, so last set of chapters, Xie Lian died. It was horribly brutal. The Windmaster's gone MIA along with the Blackwater, and Hua Cheng and Xie Lian are back at the Pucci Shrine dealing with Qirong, who's seen way too much to be sane anymore. And we thought we had everything all figured out about the Blackwater, that he was Ming Yi, that he had been playing as Ming Yi, that he'd killed him, that he'd done all these things, and at the last minute, Hua Cheng was like, well, I don't really know if the Blackwater killed the Earthmaster, and he definitely wasn't the one that set up the whole thing that brought y'all into his lair in the first place. And it's like, what? What do you mean it wasn't him? So the mystery deepens. And I'm like, Hua Cheng, how do you know it wasn't him? So, I'm quite curious. But I don't know if I may not be able to resist the urge to binge y'all. It just may have to happen. We'll see. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. The only comment I really have, I liked Millie Pop's comment saying that basically like 1,000 Fix-It fan fictions were born out of this, because everybody was like, fix Beef Leaf, I can do it. And I'm sure everybody wanted to read them after the trauma of these chapters. But not only that, I loved Millie Pop pointing this out, that yeah, when they said the Blackwater is true to their word, all those times the Windmaster was like, oh, Ming Yi, you're my best friend. And Ming Yi was like, who? Who's that? No, they weren't lying. It was like, that should have been a clue. It should have been a foreshadowing that it was like, no, Ming Yi, the Blackwater wasn't lying. They were never their best friends. I'm like, it's just like a knife to the chest. So yeah, so we had Chan Yijin was involved in them looking for Xie Lian and them. Yijin was involved, Pei Ming was involved, and then basically we're back to the Pucci Shrine again. So fun times, right? But I'm really excited, y'all, to see what these chapters will bring us now, because I have no clue where we're going to from here. I'm like, do we go and try to find the Windmaster? Do we just let it all ride out? Are they just gonna be MIA? What does Jun Woo think about all of this? That it was the Blackwater? Do they know it was the Blackwater? What does Jun Woo think about all this? I don't know if we're going to find that out or not. But I'm really excited, y'all. This volume, I loved volume 3 because it was such like a lore building, epic sprawling narrative. But this has been an emotional roller coaster. So it's kind of like volumes 3 and 4 are like apples and oranges at this point. It's like, pick your poison. Which one do you prefer? And it's hard for me to choose, because I loved volume 3 so much. But this volume, the moment that twist came out, I was like, oh, this volume's right up there with me. I'm like, So it's hard for me to decide, right? But in any case, the story's amazing. We all know this. I'm excited to see what we're going to get out of these chapters and to talk with you all about them. So let's find out, shall we? We are going to read chapters 126 and 127 of Heaven Official's Blessing, part 40, y'all. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's jam. I realize now I've been literally engaged with Heaven Officials Blessing for almost a year, because I started doing like the 12 to 13 weeks in a row of the Donghua, and now we're on part 40. So it's been a year since I started with Heaven Officials Blessing. Insanity. Insanity. Chapter 126, the subject ache of separation. A restless heart strays the path of ink. Path of ink? Path of ink? Restless hearts? What we doing? Okay. I'm just getting a little excited now. Xie Lian was slightly taken aback. Then who could it be? A tempest like this shouldn't involve more than 50 people. I suspect it might be the same person who sent that empty-shelled cultivator that led to the Banyu incident. Oh, we're going back and tying it to that person? What? If that was true, then it did seem like there had always been a hand that had been pushing him to the heart of every case every time. Yeah, feeling a little baffled, Xie Lian wondered, well, what's that person after? Yeah, we've been wondering that this whole time. Why? What? To what end? Hua Cheng shook his head, but he seemed deep in thought too. Just then, there were laughing sounds of children playing coming from outside, and his sharp eyes immediately swept over. Oh, following his gaze, Xie Lian looked out the window, but he only saw two little children, Guzi riding atop Long Ying's shoulders, looking carefree and cheery. Naturally, the Watermaster's audacious deception in committing a fraudulent substitution, the Windmaster being a fraud, the Earthmaster a fraud too, and that the Watermaster's head and body were separated, nowhere to be found, these 4 cases, each more explosive than the next, blew up the heavens like 4 bombs, raising a tidal wave that flooded the upper and middle courts. All of a sudden, everyone was shocked and shaken. No one knew what to say in regards to the matter, and crickets filled the great martial hall. Even Junwu's hand didn't seem to support his head anymore. Since Ming Yi had never really gone out of his way to be friendly with anyone, and only someone like the Windmaster, who enjoyed pestering others and assumed overly familiar relationships, managed to be on good terms with him, barely anyone was close with him. However, when they realized that one of their own colleagues was that legendary Supreme Ghost King, the shock was truly too great. In order to play the role of the Earthmaster properly, in the past so many years, this Ghost King had worked hard and diligently, gathering a large number of worshippers in the mortal realm. He even managed to make it into the top 10 during the Battle of the Lanterns at the Mid-Autumn Festival, truly terrifying as expected of a Supreme Ghost King. Even without mentioning the grudge between the Blackwater Demon Jean and the Watermaster Wudu, the true murderer behind the real Earthmaster Yi was Blackwater Demon Jean, no question about it. Thus, the upper court officially released an arrest warrant. However, everyone knew that if a Supreme Ghost King wanted to hide, he wouldn't be so easily found. As they say, once a man falls, all will tread on him. In the past, the Windmaster and Watermaster stood in greatness and glory, with hundreds at their beck and call. Every time Shiwudu appeared, he was extolled and celebrated. Yet now, with his abrupt death, suddenly, all of his supporters didn't dare breathe a single breath. The Windmaster loved making friends and was generous to all, yet those numerous good friends all disappeared to who knows where. Pei Ming collected Shiwudu's headless corpse, and on the day of his burial, the ceremony was quiet and empty of people. Other than Xie Lian and Ling Wen, there weren't many other heavenly officials who showed. Imagine that! Isn't that telling? Isn't that telling? The 2 Watermasters that were so generous and gracious with their merits, and everybody was clamoring to them. The moment they're in trouble, everyone vanishes. Oh. Xie Lian noted in these recent days, there were already bands of people burning down and desecrating the temples of wind and water. He couldn't bear the sight of it, and tried to stop them a few times. However, as time went on, when people discovered their prayers were no longer answered, the acts of aggression would only grow worse. He could stop them once, but he couldn't stop them forever, and he's learned that lesson. In another 10 years, perhaps even only a few years, people would completely forget the 2 heavenly officials of wind and water who used to rule at the summit of heaven. He couldn't help but feel melancholic. Once the funeral was over, Xie Lian turned to Ling Wen. The whereabouts of Lord Windmaster, of Xingchong, is now in your hands. We're counting on you. Ling Wen was also looking solemn, having not smiled in days. Without your Highness's appeal, I would still do my utmost in my duty. Pei Ming, however, said, Your Highness, rather than let the palace of Ling Wen drag their feet like an old broken ox cart, why not ask your Crimson Rain sought flower directly? See if he can ask that crazy Blackwater where he's taken Xing Shang. He's already taken Watermaster Zhang's head. What more does he want? Xie Lian shook his head and replied helplessly, General Pei, please don't think things so matter of fact. If a Supreme Demon King wanted to do something, would he need to report it to the other? Thus, Pei Ming didn't say anything further. When Xie Lian returned to the Puchi Shrine, there were many villagers surrounding the shrine whispering to each other. Xie Lian didn't need to ask to know what was happening, because from within the Puchi Shrine there came howling and shrieking. The village head was scared and nervous, tugging at him. Dao Zhang, your mad little cousin. He's... The excuse Xie Lian had given the world was that Qirong was his insane younger cousin, rejected by others without anyone willing to care for him. So Xie Lian took him out of obligation. On some level, this wasn't a lie. Is he gone mad again? Oh, don't worry. He's properly locked up. He won't escape. Everyone can go home, Xie Lian said. The villagers all murmured, oh, let's go, let's go. Before they dispersed, the village head gave Xie Lian a basket of eggs. Dao Zhang, your Zhao Hua. Xie Lian was bewildered at first. Zhao Hua? Oh, so long. Then he remembered that Hua Cheng's current identity to the outside world was his younger brother, who ran away from home and came over to play. Xie Lian couldn't help but feel a little flustered. Yeah, your Zhao Hua helped us fix some stuff today. You'll have to reward him properly tonight. Oh my god! Ooh! Oh, are we coming to collect tonight? Is this happening? Yeah, give him some supplements. Get him strong and buff. He'll get even better at labor. Xie Lian couldn't help but smile. Oh, I will, for sure. When he opened the door, Long Ying was already asleep, curled up in the corner. Qirong was lying on the ground like a corpse, wailing and looking like his innards were on fire. Guzi was massaging his shoulders and chopping his back. Dad, are you better? Xie Lian removed the bamboo hat from his head and put the eggs down. What's with you? Ate something bad? Qirong spat. Well, as long as you don't fucking cook me anything! I won't suffer stomach aches even if I were to lick shit and grime on the ground! Listening to him exaggerate, Xie Lian folded his hands across and tucked into his sleeves. And he's like, then will you really try licking those things to see if it'll give you stomach aches? Pichu, pichu, pichu! What the F did this old master say? You're showing your evil heart again, trying to come up with different ways to torture me. Wait, oh, my good son, that's good. Now chop this side. What the F's going on? I've been nothing but aggravated lately, like an effing tomcat in rut. Am I sick? Cousin Crown Prince, I'm sick. It must be because you've been torturing me that I'm sick. You god effing Snow Lotus, you're out for blood. Xie Lian crouched down and felt his forehead. Are you burning up? After a pause, he dropped his hand and frowned. Well, that's not it. You're faking it, aren't you? Qirong was going to start cussing again, and Guzi said pathetically, Dao Zhang, my dad didn't lie to you. He hasn't been feeling well lately, and he's wailed for a long time today. Watching Qirong wiggle on the ground, Xie Lian shook his head and rose to his feet, ready to look for the medicine box. He suddenly noticed the donation box was heavy. The donation box was newly built by Hua Cheng, so it shouldn't have anything inside. Puzzled, Xie Lian took the key and opened it, and was flabbergasted by what he saw. He was once again blinded by a box full of shining golden bars. Huh! Xie Lian quickly shut the donation box again. Didn't he already return that gold box of bars given by the Watermaster? Who else would give him a gift like this? It couldn't be Hua Cheng. He wouldn't do something so simple and crude like stuffing him with gold bars. Xie Lian turned his head around and said, Qirong, did somebody come by? Qirong pointed at his face and cussed. Oh, what's wrong with you? Do you really take me for a guard dog? You think you're supreme? Even a supreme isn't this shameless. Not even that shitty Blackwater and Hua Cheng. That fucker dare take me on for a guard dog. Bang. The Puchi Shrine door was kicked open by someone, and that someone was Hua Cheng. The moment he saw him, Qirong instantly became mute. He silently wiggled to the side, not daring to make any more mention of what he saw that night. So long, you're back, Xie Lian said. Hua Cheng smiled cheerfully. Yeah. Thank you for your hard work. The village sent along some gifts to have me reward you. We'll eat something good tonight. Sounds good, Hua Cheng said, but Gege, do you want to come over to my place tonight? The ghost city, Xie Lian asked. Ah, he replied, and take this thing along too. He pointed to Xilong. See if there's any way we can pull his soul out. Humming for a moment, Xie Lian acquiesced. That's probably a good idea. In any case, it's not good to keep dragging our feet on this. Of course, the most important reason was that Xirong ate too much, and his Puchi shrine could no longer afford it. When Xirong heard that they were going to send him to the ghost city, he was terrified and objected as hard as he could. However, his objections fell on deaf ears. A blast of smoke later, he was turned into a green Daruma by Hua Cheng! Guzi carried him in his hands as they left for the ghost city. The ghost city was bustling as always. Walking down the main street, the ghosts all remembered Xie Lian. Seeing that he'd come again, they all shouted, "Oh, granduncle! No, Chongju's lord friend, you've come again!" Quack, is it because you missed our specialty street food? Quack! Xie Lian brought that basket of eggs along and gave them away as souvenirs from the mortal realm. Many who received the eggs were overjoyed, some deciding to eat it along with their own blood, and some proclaiming they would hatch an 8-foot monster. Hua Cheng released the spell on Xirong. After a blast of green smoke, the man possessed by Xirong appeared on the street, hugging his head and crouching in defense, not speaking a word. Some of the ghosts caught the scent of his body and exclaimed, "Oh, isn't this the green ghost?" The crowd of ghosts all approached and surrounded him, sniffing about. They were all thrilled. "Oh, it really is the green ghost. This dumbass is here again." I like how we blurred ass, but we've said fuck like 6 times in this one chapter. This dumbass is here again. Wahaha. Haven't you been beaten enough last time? You dare come again? Watch over the little one, Hua Cheng said. As for the big one, think of a way to drag him out without hurting the body. Yes, sir, my lord! Thus, several beautiful female ghosts hugged Guzi, hummed a little lullaby, and put him to sleep. The other demons, monsters, and ghosts then started playing tag with Xirong. Rather, it was like the latter screaming as he fled, and the former group in hot pursuit behind him. Hua Cheng and Xie Lian watched for a bit, then turned away, heading inside the Chongding temple. I love this. I love everything about this. This is amazing. The two stepped into the hall leisurely and approached the altar. The altar is still covered with brushes, ink, and paper. Xie Lian had been feeling rather heavy recently, and seeing that stationery had the intent to relax his mood. He smiled softly. Last time when I taught you, I said you need to practice when you've got the time, but I suppose you haven't been practicing lately. Hua Cheng cleared his throat. Gege, you've given away my reward to the other people. What will I eat tonight? Xie Lian imitated him and raised his brows slightly. Don't change the subject. I can practice the sword, but not calligraphy, Hua Cheng said. If Gege isn't beside me to instruct, I'll probably go astray practicing all by myself, and get worse the more I write. Xie Lian's brows were rising higher. Sun Long is so smart. How can there be anything he's no good at? Oh my god, the sexual tension, y'all. Hua Cheng picked up a brush and dipped it in a bit of ink, looking very humble. It's true. Pray, Gege, teach me. Xie Lian sighed a breath. Why don't you write something first? Thus Hua Cheng very seriously wrote 2 verses. Xie Lian watched for a bit, but then really couldn't watch any more. Oh, stop. You best stop after all. Don't waste good paper and ink anymore. Oh, Hua Cheng said obediently, and really did stop, putting the brush away. Xie Lian shook his head. Sun Long, don't tell anyone I taught you how to write. Gege, I tried my best, Hua Cheng pouted. The way he spoke really sounded like he was aggrieved. A proud supreme ghost king. If his name should be announced, all 3 realms would shiver in fright. Yet right now he stood like a young student, obediently listening to Xie Lian's critique. Having lectured on a few more crucial points, Xie Lian held his hand again like the last time. Let's try again. Be serious this time. All right, Hua Cheng said. The 2 were then immersed in composition. After writing for a while, Xie Lian asked casually, Why is this still ache of separation? Hua Cheng answered casually, I like this poem. Oh, I like it too. But does Sun Long have any other poems he likes? Once you're familiar with copying this poem, you can try copying others. Roughly counting, this poem had only so many words. The 2 of them had written it over 10 times, so it should be time to change to a different one. However, Hua Cheng was adamant. This one is fine. Placing the brush down, he blew lightly at the ink and smiled. If I like something, then my heart will not have room for any other, and I'll always treasure it. 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, no matter how many years, this will not change. The poem is the same. He's trying to give him so many hints. He's trying to hint that it's him. Oh my God. Is that right? Xie Lian released his hand and cleared his throat quietly. Well, then very well. San Long is a sentimental man. That's good. Oh, why don't you practice some more by yourself? That's right. Xirong doesn't seem to be feeling well lately. Hua Cheng put down the paper and picked up the brush again. How is he unwell? Xie Lian turned around, his back facing Hua Cheng. He said something like he was feeling agitated all over, but I've looked him over and it didn't seem to be caused by that man's body. It can't be because the weather's bad. Behind him, Hua Cheng questioned. When did this start? It should be just within the past few days, Xie Lian replied. Today was especially bad. Before he finished a sentence, a sense of foreboding suddenly grew in his mind. Just then there was a light "pa" sound behind him, and an object had fallen to the ground. Xie Lian whipped around. San Long! The brush that had been in Hua Cheng's hand had dropped, landing on the snow-white paper, slashing a long, erratic trail of ink. Hua Cheng's expression was grim, his body unsteady. He held himself up with his hand clutching the edge of the altar, while the other hand covered his right eye. What? What? Mount Tonglu reopens. All ghosts aroused. What? Judging from his expression, it seemed that his right eye was throbbing, as if it was an overwhelming amount of pain. Xie Lian instantly sprung forward. Are you okay? The corner of Hua Cheng's mouth twitched, but he forced the words back. The silver eyes engraved on Emming's hilt snapped open, and the eyeball started to spin wildly. Veins popped along the surface of the hand Hua Cheng rested on top of the altar, the hand threatening to flip the table at any second. Xie Lian reached out his hand, wanting to help, but Hua Cheng growled back, "Stay back." Seeing Xie Lian freeze, Hua Cheng gritted through his teeth. Your Highness, please hurry and get away from me. I might. How can you tell me to leave when you're like this? Hua Cheng said, his voice nothing but gentle. If you were to stay here any longer, In an instant, wave after wave of ghostly howls and cries surrounded from the outside of the Changdong Temple. Ghosts were doubling over in the ghost city main street, bawling their eyes out, clutching their heads and wailing, as if their skulls split open and they were on the verge of death. Amidst the chaos, Xirong was sprinting quickly away. Although the flesh vessel had diminished his powers, his possession of a human body also acted as a protective barrier against any ghost-effective attacks. It was solely because of this fact that Xirong was still jumping about resiliently and seizing the chance to flee. The group of female ghosts that had been cradling Guzi had now fallen onto the ground, crying about their headaches, unable to sing their hypnotic melody. Guzi groggily woke up, only to see Xirong bolting away like a madman. He jumped to his feet and chased after him while yelling, Dad, Dad, wait for me! As he ran, Xirong turned around and stuck out his tongue and made a face. La, 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 la. Good boy, Dad's leaving! Yet Guzi still chased him relentlessly with his two small legs. Seeing the distance between them had grown bigger, he burst into tears. Dad, please don't throw me away. Dad, take me with you. Xirong spat out continuously, Get lost, don't follow me, what a nuisance! A drop of his spit flew so far that it hit Guzi on the forehead and knocked him down to his butt. What? He cried even harder, as if his heart was going to break and his lungs were going to burst. Xie Lian couldn't bear it any longer and stormed out of the Changdong Temple in anger. Xirong! The moment Xirong saw Xie Lian blocking the path in front of him, he spun around in fear and ran back the way he came. Along the way, he scooped up Guzi from the ground and threatened, Don't come any closer! Come and I'll bite off the head of this little brat before your eyes! What a good boy, you're going to become your dad's meal. How filial! Tomorrow Dad will cook you. You can pick between being braised or steamed! Xie Lian wasn't fazed by the threat at all. However, just when he was about to give chase, a loud crash sounded behind him. As if suddenly struck by fury, Hua Cheng had swept the ink brush and paper pad off the table into the ground. Fearing the worst, Xie Lian couldn't afford to deal with Xirong and turned around, San Long. All of a sudden, he was embraced tightly by Hua Cheng. There was a tremble in his voice as the Supreme Ghost King whispered, I lied, don't leave me. Xie Lian became as still as a statue, locked within that pair of strong arms. San Long, do you recognize me? It seemed as if he was at a point where he had lost all of his senses and wasn't able to recognize who was in front of him. He clutched Xie Lian even tighter in his arms and repeatedly muttered, I lied, don't leave me. Xie Lian widened his eyes outside the temple while Guzi wailed uncontrollably. Xirong broke out in hysterical laughter. Oh, Chong, you fucker, that'll I'll teach you to look down on me all the time. Look at you, all cocky all day. Ain't this karma? You're done for. Upon hearing this, the ghosts in the streets, who were on the verge of exhaustion from the pain, immediately cursed back. Green ghost, you useless trash! You dare to swear at our Lord! The annoying ruckus was going on around them drove Hua Cheng to the edge, making him even more infuriated. He raised his hand as if he was about to blast them to pieces. Instinctively, Xie Lian hugged him back to keep the hand down. He soothed, okay, I won't leave you. With a flick of his hand, Changdong Temple's grand doors shut by themselves. To prevent Qirong from busting into the temple under these circumstances, Xie Lian shooed him. If you're gonna scram, then get lost. I don't have time for you. If you don't get lost, then just wait and see what I'll... To his surprise, Hua Cheng was unjustified with only a shallow embrace, and he shoved Xie Lian roughly on top of the jaded table. Ink, paper, brushes all fell and scattered across the floor. Caught up in the struggle, Xie Lian's hand accidentally glided past the ink pad stationed on the table, leaving crimson red marks along the paper underneath him. Upon the ache of separation, upon the line, no cloud is beautiful but that which crowns the peak. The two characters of the peak were now stained with vivid red blood-like markings, a stunningly beautiful addition. Son, Xie Lian started. Before he could finish, Hua Cheng held him by the shoulders and leaned down to kiss him. Qirong, who had undoubtedly heard something that he didn't sound right, laughed. Cousin Crown Prince, you better be careful. Hua Cheng is probably like a rabid dog right now. He'll bite whoever he sees. I myself will personally go and help you spread the news. There are quite a few monks and cultivators who seek revenge against Hua Cheng. They might as well come on down now and take care of him. Xie Lian's heart lightened as Qirong's laughter faded in the distance. If Qirong really did call forth a group of cultivators who Hua Cheng had wronged, under the ghost's current weakened condition, how could Ghost City defend itself? Yet amidst all this, Hua Cheng wasn't allowing him any break to think. Although he wasn't alive and shouldn't emit any warmth, in this very moment his body was burning hot, as if he was struck by a high fever. With their lips tightly pressed against each other, Xie Lian was practically forced to accept the incoming waves of heat. The hands that were originally trying to push Hua Cheng away now sank into the folds of the red fabric near his shoulders and said, "Oh my God! Ah!" Okay. Maybe it was because Hua Cheng's spiritual energy was too strong. Xie Lian felt his throat, chest, and stomach were filled to the brim by warmth, to the point it became uncomfortable. If he continued to endure this, he might burst under the sheer amount of power that was being poured in. He tightened his jaw and raised his palm to slap. Although he did land a blow, because he really couldn't bring himself to hit Hua Cheng, the hand only lightly tapped his shoulder instead, the force neither light nor heavy. Unfazed, Hua Cheng seized his wrist, held it down, and continued the attack on Xie Lian's lips. He really couldn't let this continue any further. This time, Xie Lian used both hands. After shoving Hua Cheng away, he fled to the side of the altar in panic, panting for breath. However, with bloodshot eyes, Hua Cheng hounded him and followed him over, pressing him against the altar. Xie Lian cried, "Sun Long!" Perhaps his voice did reach him, for Hua Cheng stared at his face for a long time, before suddenly wrapping him in a bone-crushing hug. Seeing that he had regained some sense and stopped his advances, Xie Lian let out a sigh of relief. However, as he stood in Hua Cheng's embrace, he felt the unsettling energy inside of the Supreme fighting to break out. No wonder Hua Cheng had kissed him the moment he caught him. With such chaos going on internally, he had to find an outlet to expel it. In order to fully return him to his normal state, blood must be drained. However, Hua Cheng wasn't alive. How would he not have any blood to let? After a moment of consideration, Xie Lian came to a conclusion. "Forgive me." Oh my God! Ah! He cupped Hua Cheng's face and voluntarily covered the other's lips with his own, gently guiding the turbulent flow of heat into his own body, helping to ease the pain and suffering. Instinctively, Hua Cheng looped his arm around Xie Lian's waist, making Xie Lian shiver ever so slightly. In the next second, the two were tumbling on top of the altar. It really wasn't fair. Xie Lian wouldn't dare touch anywhere on Hua Cheng that was even slightly dangerous. Yet because of his cloudy state of mind, Hua Cheng's fingers were roaming across every inch of his body shamelessly, making Xie Lian suffer in silent torment. This altar was originally a place where one could make offerings to a god, but upon it now were a ghost and a god who were entangled in a heated battle of tongues. Although preposterous, this scene was beyond breathtaking. Oh my God! In the past, when committing this sort of act, both parties were more or less clear-headed, and there was always a justifiable reason. There was at least some measure of control, since there was nothing beyond just lips covering lips. However, this time, with roaming hands On top of a hazy mind, it well exceeded the boundary of only lips and teeth. In his foggy mind, Xie Lian finally realized something. Although every time it was out of his control and he had no choice, in truth, every time there was a hidden desire he couldn't hold back. After suffering through the entire night, the unsettled energy inside of Hua Cheng finally began to calm down. The arm that was clutching on Xie Lian slowly released its grip. Xie Lian flipped over and sat up. Watching Hua Cheng's sleeping face, he finally sighed a breath. Thrown to the side, Ming's single eyeball was still spinning around frantically. Xie Lian picked up the scimitar, and it was only after a long series of pets that the blade finally softened into a crescent eye smile, and it was finally satisfied. Not long after, Hua Cheng shot up from where he'd been sleeping. "Your Highness!" Hastily, Xie Lian adjusted his expression. He turned around and beamed. "Oh, you're awake! Everything is fine now." Hua Cheng did a quick scan around him. Needless to say, it was a giant mess inside the Chongdong Temple. His face was uncharacteristically distraught, as if he couldn't remember what had happened the night before. Xie Lian jumped at the chance to speak, his voice calm and confident. "What happened last night? All of your subordinates were suddenly struck by either fever or throbbing headaches, and everyone else was restless. You were too. You had quite the temper." Hua Cheng demanded. "Other than that?" "Other than what? There's nothing else." Xie Lian blinked. He could feel Hua Cheng's gaze on him as the Supreme continued to grill him. Was there really nothing? Then how did I calm down? Xie Lian softly cleared his throat as if he was slightly embarrassed. "To tell you the truth, San Long, please don't be mad at me. Other than doing this," he motioned to Yiming, who was currently petting, and admitted, "I also had a fight with you." Hua Cheng looked at him suspiciously. "We fought?" Xie Lian held down his fort and watched him earnestly. "That's right. Look, the hall is such a mess because of our fight." There was a pause before Hua Cheng puffed out a sigh of relief and rested his head on his hand. Seeing that he wasn't hounding for answers anymore, Xie Lian finally felt his suspended heart settle down and silently released his breath. "It opened," Hua Cheng muttered all of a sudden. "What did?" "Mount Tonglu reopened." The meaning of this announcement couldn't be clearer for the two. Xie Lian widened his eyes. "A new ghost king is about to be born?" When Xie Lian returned to report in, the heavenly court was rumbling with thunder unceasingly. Stepping into the great martial hall, Xie Lian unconsciously looked for someone to inquire, "What's the matter with the Lord Thundermaster?" But only when the words left his lips did he realize that the spot where the Windmaster once stood was now empty. The Watermaster stood right up front, and the Earthmaster sat in the corner. These spots, too, were vacant. He was taken aback, and his heart sighed. He looked over and saw Long Chong Chu enter the hall. Oh! Having not seen him for so long, his entire person had thinned to size, and he looked much gloomier. His eyes met with Xie Lian's, and he turned away without a word. Xie Lian scanned around and realized he couldn't find anyone to converse with casually. A voice answered him. "It's nothing. A ghost king is about to be born. Ghosts cry and gods sound. The thunder will not stop." That's so creepy. The one who responded was Feng Xin. For some reason, when Xie Lian saw him, he couldn't help but feel an incredible sense of friendliness. However, one of Feng Xin's eyes was purple. Xie Lian couldn't help but glance over to Mu Qing, who was standing far away on the other side of the hall. Mu Qing's cheek was swollen. It seemed after building their grudge for so many years, the brawl the last time must have been aggressive. Junwu spoke up. "The reason why I've summoned everyone here today, I'm sure you're all very aware." The heavenly officials all acknowledged. "The universe is a kiln. All sentient beings are copper. In the deep waters and scalding fires, all trials breathe within. Mount Tonglu is a natural, ominous land crawling with malicious tidings. A live volcano that can erupt at any given time. Every few hundred years, the city of Gu within the mountain will open its gates and affect millions of ghosts. It especially affects the previous ghost kings. Every monster, demon, and ghost that thirsts to reach the level of supreme will make their way to Mount Tonglu. Once they've gathered, Mount Tonglu will be sealed once more, and the slaughtering will officially begin. When there's but one last one remaining, a new ghost king will be born. The crimson rain-sought flower and the ship's sinking black water are both such supreme ghost kings who were born thus. The two became supremes and emerged from the mountain. Blackwater spent 12 years there. Hua Cheng spent 10 years. Mu Ching said coldly, one Blackwater and one Hua Cheng is already difficult to deal with. Just see what they've done. If another comes along, we won't sleep a wink. Xie Lian commented gently, well, General Shan, I won't comment on what the Blackwater has done, but Hua Cheng really hasn't done anything out of line. Mu Ching, with his puffy swollen cheeks, gave him a look. Pei Ming spoke up. They are difficult to deal with, so we must stop this gathering of millions of ghosts. Am I right? Am I right? Oh, that's correct, Junwu said. The gathering of the millions of ghosts will take a few months. We will need to stop them before they've gathered. What if we don't stop them in time? Is there really any way to rally? There is, Junwu said. However, hopefully we will not reach that step. The most urgent business right now is that the arousal of ghosts has started a wave of chaos, and many monsters and demons that were sealed away have escaped. Many of these are extremely dangerous inhuman creatures, such as the female ghost Shanji, the fetus spirit, the brocade immortal. At this moment, they're rushing towards Mount Tonglu. They must be immediately apprehended once more. They've all escaped? Then this is certainly quite chaotic. Which is why, I'm afraid, every martial god must take heed and thoroughly investigate their warranted domains, Junwu said. Then what about me? Xie Lian asked. Although Xie Lian was the god of rubbish at the moment, nevertheless he still ascended as a martial god the last 2 times. He was basically being used as a martial god right now, too. The only difference is that he didn't have a domain. Humming for a moment, Junwu said, Xie Lian, why don't you go with Qi Ying? Hey! Yeah! Yishin! Yay! All right! Okay! Woo! Well, how about that? We've been really blessed by this volume. We've really been blessed by this volume, haven't we? Haven't we? Because, yes... Oh my god. I've sat here for weeks and weeks being like the meme of the butterfly, is this the volume 4 cover kiss? And we finally made it! Yes! Oh my god. Oh, I was so enthralled by these chapters. Like, they were too short. That's what we get for having a really big giant mess of chapters last week. We get far too short chapters this week. They just flew by like that. And I was like, dang it. But you just never know, right? You just never know. This just went by so quickly. But, so we finally get the moment of the kiss on the cover. And oh man, just the red ink sprawling everywhere all over it. They faked us out so many times with wondering what that kiss was going to be, and we finally made it here. It only took us to get to chapter 126 and 127, and it only took us 127 chapters for Xie Lian to come to terms that maybe he does want this, right? Maybe he does want this. Oh my, Xie Lian is realizing things. Things are happening. I'm so proud of our bean. But y'all, oh my gosh. So another calamity, huh? Another supreme ghost. Awesome. I mean, Bai Wu Sheng is gone, so gotta replace him. And Qirong's not a supreme yet. Here's the thing. I don't think Qirong is going to Mount Tonglu. I don't think Qirong's going there. I don't think Qirong has any interest in becoming a supreme because of the measures you have to do to become a supreme. I think that Qirong is quite happy in his cozy little goozy daddy body and does not want to go do that. Because here's the thing, Qirong's kind of cowardly, and Qirong just wants to ride the coattails of being one of the 4 calamities without actually doing all the work that is involved into getting that point. So he's kind of rode on the coattails of just, well, we need 4. We can't have just 3 calamities. We need 4 to round it out, right? And now he's going to be like, okay, well, what do we do now? Because here's the thing. I was trying to think of this earlier, and I wanted to write this out. We have like the elementals. I didn't know if maybe that would have something to do with it as well, because we have water, we have wind, we have earth, we have thunder, and we have rain, right? We have those 5, right? There are elementals. So far, the water one is dead. The Earth Master's dead. This one is MIA, is the Wind Master. Don't know where they are. And Rain Master doesn't really care about coming out or doing anything like that. They're kind of like happy where they are. So the Thunder Master is the only one that's still in the Heavenly Realm, which is really super sad. But then we have our calamities, right? And we have Bai Wusheng. We have the Blackwater. We have Hua Cheng. We have Qi Rong. And then we have supposedly, unless Junwu and the others can stop it, we have this other Supreme Ghost coming down. Now, Qi Rong is not a Supreme Ghost, so they don't really count. And supposedly, Bai Wusheng is gone. So that really leaves the Blackwater and Hua Cheng, which seem like threats enough. I like when Mu Qing was talking about how threatening the two Supremes we have now are. They just totally leave out Qi Rong. Qi Rong's not important. Qi Rong's not a Supreme. But I don't think Qi Rong's going to go to Mount Tonglu. I don't think it has any inclination or any desire to do so. So yeah, the question is, and the crazy thing about it is that whenever this ghost gets trapped into Mount Tonglu, they're not instantly going to become a Supreme. They've got to be there for, Hua Cheng was there for a decade. And the Blackwater was there for 12 years. What we don't know is how long was Bai Wusheng there? How long did they have to go into Mount Tonglu? Or did they not, right? I guess Bai Wusheng, but Bai Wusheng was a Supreme Ghost, but they supposedly did not go to Mount Tonglu. So how did they become a Supreme? They just kept eating ghosts until they got to that point? We don't know. One thing that's so fascinating is that we know nothing about Bai Wusheng. At this point, Bai Wusheng, back in the day, doesn't really even have a name. Did it say its name was Bai Wusheng when Xie Lian met it? Did it? I guess it did, because that's how we know who it is. But I feel like Bai Wusheng is we've gotten all the Blackwaters past. The Blackwater past, we know Qi Rong's past, right? Qi Rong's past, check. Blackwater past, check. We know the Water Master past, check. Wind Master, check. Earth Master, at this point, we know enough about them, right? We don't know much about the Rain Master or about the Thunder Master. So we know enough. I feel like the Earth Master and Hua Cheng are kind of check. We know just enough about them. We don't know anything about Bai Wusheng. We don't know where they came from, how they came to be, what their deal is. No, nothing. And then this new one, we don't really know either. So there's kind of some funky parallels and things going on there, which is rather interesting. But I like the idea that the ghosts are all affected with Mount Tonglu. It's like a beacon. It's like a beacon call. And all of the Supreme Ghosts that are around, they kind of feel the ramifications of it. And it like heightens everything and it like arouses them. And so Hua Cheng is like in this, it's almost like the flowers. Like the temptation, right? That Xie Lian felt in the cave. There was that temptation. Hua Cheng was feeling it now. The only difference is back then, Xie Lian kept himself separate from Hua Cheng. And here, the opposite happens. And Xie Lian like embraces Hua Cheng, being like, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to leave you. These chapters, though, the ache of separation. And here, again, the ache of separation, chapter title, it all works out. Isn't that funny? Ha, ha, ha. But yeah. So a tempest shouldn't involve more than 50 people. So lots of things get brought up in these chapters that we need to talk about that just get casually thrown out there. And so we have the idea that there is this mystery person. All right. There is this mystery person that we don't know as the audience who it is, but they are the one that lured Xie Lian to Banyu. They've lured them there and lured to the Blackwater. What's interesting is, on first glance, you would think, well, that would be the Blackwater, right? Because the Blackwater lured Xie Lian. I mean, the Blackwater was there at Banyu, so it makes sense that they would lure Xie Lian there. And it was their lair that Xie Lian was lured to, so why wouldn't it be the Blackwater? But Hua Cheng's like, no, we made a pact. It can't be the Blackwater. We swore a blood bro oath. Can't be him. And I don't think it is the Blackwater. So that's curious. It almost seems like someone's trying to frame the Blackwater, right? Someone is trying to frame maybe the Blackwater or someone else for luring Xie Lian there. Someone that may or may not have the knowledge that Xie Lian is with Hua Cheng as more than friends. So that's really interesting. And Xie Lian's like, well, what is that person after? Why would they be luring me to all the cases? What's going on? And Hua Cheng is like, I don't know why. So yeah, it's just like, it's like, he's like, I don't know why they would be here. What's interesting is that just then there was a laughing sound of children playing from outside, and his eyes immediately swept over. And Xie Lian looked out the window and saw 2 children playing outside, Guzi atop Long Ying's shoulders, looking carefree and cheery. So my theory is that San Long suspects Long Ying. I still think he suspects Long Ying. And I guess that would make sense if it was Long Ying, because Xie Lian he had met Long Ying before Banyu. He had just gotten out of the groom's bride, the corpse bride scenario with Shanji, and they had just had that whole thing happen, and Long Ying had ran off because he was scared of Xie Lian, and not long after that, the puppet came to lure him to Banyu. So it could be Long Ying there. And then Long Ying and them were at the Puchi shrine when all the stuff with the Blackwater was going on, and he knew that they were going with the Windmaster and Blackwater Zhan, who was disguised as the Earthmaster, to Fugu that would lead them back to potentially the Blackwater and Shiwudu and the others. So, yeah. MXTX is making me fearful and skeptical of everyone. So, if Long Ying is somebody that's a suspect, then sure. Okay. But what do we do with that? Like, does Long Ying even realize what they're doing? Or is it like a Blackwater scenario where they're like a secret ghost in disguise and knows what they're doing? So that's so ridiculous and weird. And what's so frustrating is that we just gloss over it. We just leave it, right? And what did the book actually do? There are sadly no pictures this chapter, which is so frustrating. Although I'm sure that somebody in the Discord, if I ask, will give me a nice picture of, I can find a nice one from Star Ember for Xie Lian and Hua Cheng. But yeah, so he talks about, let me see this. We go back to chapter 126, where he's talking about who could it be. And he says, I have my suspicions. Suddenly the sounds of children laughing and playing were heard from outside. His eyes shot to the window. Following his cutting gaze, he only saw 2 small children, Guzing riding on top of Long Ying's shoulders, looking completely untroubled and carefree. And then, yeah, we go straight from that to the funeral. So, yeah, it's just like the creepiness is that Hua Cheng just looks over to the kids being like, I don't know who to suspect. Long Ying. I don't think it's Guzi. Guzi's tied to Qirong and the dad, right? What the fudge? How weird. So, yeah. So, we go back to the Watermaster's deception, the fraudulent substitution, how the Earth and Water and Wind Masters were frauds too, and how the Watermaster's head and body have been separated, nowhere to be found. And these 4 cases, more explosive than the next, blew up the heavens like bombs, and a tidal wave flooded the upper and middle courts. So it's like wave after wave of bad things are happening. We have all of these deaths, and on top of that, a supreme ghost is being summoned to be born. Like the ceremony to do so is happening. So it's like of all ominous stars, it's like Xie Lian gets ascended a 3rd time as all of the craziness happens. It's like, what? So yeah, I thought it was really interesting how they talked about the Great Hall, everyone being shaken by this, to the point where Junwoo is just like, oh my God, what do we do? Like Junwoo is just sitting there like dumbfounded, right? And so it's kind of what's fascinating about this is the Blackwater played everything really close to the vest and was so strategic in not making friends in the Heavenly Court that nobody really knows what to do, because nobody was really friends with Ming Yi, with the exception of the Windmaster, who's literally friends with everyone. And what's so sad about it is that not only is everyone in the heavenly realm like completely shook up because a supreme ghost infiltrated their realm for so many years, but nobody comes, like practically nobody comes to Xie Wudu's funeral. The water tyrant, like the third top heavenly official in the heavenly realm, and hardly anyone comes to his funeral. It's like, ugh. So yeah, the scary thing is that the Blackwater was able to pose as a heavenly official and get followers. Like amass a following almost overnight to their name, which is absolutely terrifying. Like they've made it into the top 10. So yeah, it makes the ghosts look like they can pretty much get away with a lot here. And what do we do about that? So what's interesting is that they say that if a supreme ghost wants to hide, they're not easily found. So yeah, it's so amazing that we focus so many chapters on the Windmaster, and like this volume, this part of the volume was dedicated to the Windmaster. Like this is all Windmaster, and now this is like we don't know what to do about the Windmaster, so we'll just forget him for a while. Maybe, who knows? But that is a bit concerning, right? What's really concerning is if the Blackwater was with the Windmaster the same time that Hua Cheng was with Xie Lian, is that a beef leaf moment? Can we count that as a beef leaf moment? What happened with the Blackwater? Did they have this temptation? But then their temptation wouldn't have been to make out with Xie Lian. It would have been probably to kill the Blackwater. Or is it? It's like, we talked about in the last episode, in the last reaction for the last set of chapters, if the Blackwater did in fact develop feelings for the Windmaster, and this whole Mount Tonglu thing went on, did the Blackwater try to act on those feelings, and the Windmaster's like, you just killed my brother? No. Or what ends up happening? I'm so interested now in knowing what did the Blackwater do with the Windmaster during this time when Xie Lian and Hua Cheng were dealing with the situation. I don't know. That's going to be something to find out if we eventually figure out what happened to the Windmaster. Like, what ended up happening. I'm like, that's going to be absolute insanity. So, yeah. So, I love this phrase, like, right at the start of the chapter. Once a man falls, all will tread on him. And what's so fascinating is that Xie Lian, he really feels, I'm going to get up here, this little idea, that Xie Lian relates to the fall of the wind and the water temple. It's really sad because Xie Lian, like that phrase, once a man falls, all will trample on him. Yeah, once Xie Lian fell, everybody just stomped all over him like it was nothing. And he's like, gee, thanks, guys. Like, he had to suffer all those years of being trampled upon once he fell from grace, and seeing the Windmaster and Watermaster's temples destroyed, and realizing that in just a few years, by the time this new Supreme Ghost is potentially born, like the Wind and Water temples won't even be a thing anymore. Like, that's crazy, right? How easily and quickly these heavenly officials can rise and fall and be forgotten for the sake of other heavenly officials. Like, everybody, all the followers will go move on to new things. It's wild, right? But I hate the idea that the Windmaster made all these friends. They were so popular, and yet they didn't have any true friends other than Xie Lian that showed up at the funeral. It just is mind-boggling, right? Ling Wen and Xie Lian and Pei Ming were like the only ones who came, other than like a scant few other heavenly officials. It's sad. And so Xie Lian is like, I don't know what to do, so I guess the whereabouts of the Windmaster, we're counting on you, Ling Wen. And Ling Wen's like, I'm going to do whatever I can to find them. So I just can't believe we're just leaving the Windmaster MIA in the story, and MXTX is not focusing on them anymore. It's so sad. I'm like, but we need to find out where they are, and we're just not doing it. And so, yeah. So we talk about the burning temples for the Water and Windmaster, which is utterly tragic. I hate it. And so Pei Ming, I love that Ling Wen is just like, hey, I'll do my duty, whatever. I'll go and try to find the Windmaster and do the best I can for Xie Wudu. But Pei Ming's like, rather than let Ling Wen, get themselves any busier, why not ask your Crimson Rain sought flower? Pei Ming is a damn shipper, and he is so, Pei Ming is not beating around the bush. He's like, what about your Crimson Rain sought flower? Why don't he find him? Why don't you go ask your boyfriend for some help? And Xie Lian is like, I mean, do you really think that the Supreme Ghost, if he didn't, I like that Xie Lian almost implies, okay, if you're suggesting we're together, do you think I would have not already thought of him asking that? Really? And Pei Ming gets kind of shut up by that. I like that Xie Lian kind of, fights back, being like, we would have already done that option if it was viable. And then Pei Ming just kind of gets silenced from that moment on. That part was really funny. Pei Ming comes in for a moment in each chapter set just to get stepped on and moved on. I feel bad for Pei Ming a little bit. He's providing a lot of levity and humor, but bless him. And so then the mad little cousin. Mad little cousin. So Xie Lian has created this lie, which is great. Xie Lian's lie, kind of a lie, I'm going to put it in quotation marks, is that Qi Rong is his mad little cousin, which is not a lie. That is actually what he is. But he just told everybody that he is his crazy relative that he's just taken under his wing. And he's like, forgive me, I gotta watch him. Just ignore him. But then they're like, oh, you're Zhao Hua. Zhao Hua. And Xie Lian's like, wait, what? Oh, San Long? What'd you say? That Hua Cheng's current identity to the outside world was his younger brother who'd ran away from home and came over to play. And Xie Lian was like, brother, huh? Gege, huh? What? Look at that. But so Hua Cheng has this alias as Zhao Hua. I'm like, come on, Xie Lian. Look at you now. And so everybody's like, oh, well, you just fix him some stuff tonight and go reward him properly. I'm like, ah! Oh, there was rewarding tonight. Don't you worry. And he's like, oh, yeah, I get him strong and buff. There was so much sexual tension in these later parts of the chapter. We'll get to it, but holy cow. And so, yeah. And so, I love that Xie Lian is like, why do you feel bad, Qi Rong? And Qi Rong is like, anything you cook me. It seems like Qi Rong got away at this point and has run off, and I'm going to miss Qi Rong. I'm not going to lie. I really looked forward to, whenever we went back and forth to the Pucci Shrine, I was really getting used to that wonderful, it's like you come home to a train wreck and you're like, just every time. It was just, you knew it was going to be a disaster with Qi Rong there, but I got so used to coming into the Pucci Shrine and hearing his just loud obscenities, and it almost became comforting. I was like, if something bad happened in the chapter, the moment they went back to Pucci Shrine, I'm like, okay, at least Qi Rong will be there for some laughs. And now he's gone, and it's so sad. I'm like, damn it, no! So, yeah, Qi Rong just spitting, what did this old master say? Showing your evil heart again, coming up with new ways to torture me. Qi Rong just, oh my gosh, you God's effing snow lotus. I'm like, well, he's not God fucking. That's what Qi Rong is. Ghost, on the other hand, we're not quite there yet, but Ghost, maybe. And so Guzzi said that Qi Rong has not been feeling well lately. And that's when I like that. Okay, here's something else. The donation box. Why is it full? We got that mystery. The donation box. We don't touch base on that. I thought Xie Lian was going to ask about it. The donation box is full of gold bars. And Xie Lian is certain that it's not Hua Cheng, because why would Hua Cheng tactfully put gold bars in there? He would just give him the money and merits automatically. But somebody's put gold bars into the donation box. Why? Who? Xie Lian's like, but Shiwudu's dead, so who else would gift him something like this? What's happening? Qi Rong, did somebody come by? And he's like, and of course, Qi Rong hasn't been paying any attention. He's like, I'm not the guard dog for a Supreme. Even that shitty Blackwater and Hua Cheng, that fucker dare take me for a guard dog. And then, right then, Hua Cheng opens up, and there he is. Okay. But they don't answer the question of who gave him the gold bars. So we basically are putting on the back burner the Windmaster. Ling Wen is following up on that. So we don't know anything about the Windmaster. We don't know about this mystery person that supposedly has now not only lured Xie Lian to Banyu, but has lured him to the Blackwater and may or may not be connected to Ming Yi's death. But now also, we have this donation box full of gold bars again. Mysteries, y'all. Mysteries after mysteries being established. We don't quite understand what's going on, right? Interesting. And so Hua Cheng has this great idea. He's like, hey, I know we've just done a bunch of stuff and we've come back to this Puji Shrine a lot, but how about a change of scenery? And I like that he kind of convinces Xie Lian by saying, we're going to take Qirong to the ghost city and get him exorcised out of that man's body. And Xie Lian's like, well, okay. That seems like we need to he needs to get out of that body at some point. And he's like, Qirong's eating too much food, so he needs to get out of the Puji Shrine. I like that the main incentive to get him out is he's too expensive. Qirong is costing us too much money, so he has to go, right? We gotta get out of here. And now that everybody has told me about the comparison of Qirong to a caterpillar, especially when he's tied up in the Puji Shrine, I'm living for it. I love how he's just like crawling like a worm. Amazing. And so, the ghost city. I love the ghost city. I love that every time Xie Lian goes, he's like, oh, your Lord Friend is here. Like, they're all like, oh, it's your friend, right? And Qirong and Hua Cheng's like, yes. And Xie Lian seems so at home in the ghost city. I love the idea and the visual of him just like with the baskets of eggs, and he's giving it out to the ghosts like as souvenirs from the mortal realm. And they're also like, oh my gosh, thank you, Xie Lian. Like, I love that Xie Lian feels more at home and is treated better and with more compassion by these ghosts than he is his own fellow heavenly officials. Isn't that funny? I really feel like it's going to be one of those scenarios where by the end of the story, Xie Lian does not go back to the heavenly realm. He's going to either stay in the ghost realm or the mortal realm with Hua Cheng once he fully feels and realizes his feelings for him. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I love how the book, I want to look at this. I love how the book censored dumbass, but yet it had all of that cursing from Qirong. Wasn't that ridiculous? Where is that at? He's like, he pushes him back. He says, Hua Cheng, I won't. Okay. Oh, I want to go back here. Because this is from chapter 127. Yeah. He comes here and they say, didn't you catch enough of beating last time? You seriously? Yeah, he says that dumbass is here again. So they do actually say it in the book. That's fun. But yeah, so Hua Cheng tells him to watch over Guzi and drag Qirong out of the body without hurting him. And I like that instantly these beautiful female ghosts grab Guzi and just like lull him into a lullaby. From here on in, the rest of chapter 126 into chapter 127 reminds me a lot of Modao Zushi. Like the female ghosts like lulling Guzi to sleep. It instantly felt like if Wei Wuxian, the female ghost following him, took like took the baby that becomes Sishui and like lulls him into a sleep, right? I have temporarily forgotten his baby name, but it like lulls him to sleep. Like that was the instant visual that I got. And then Hua Cheng losing control reminded me a lot of Lan Wangji losing control. And I was like, I could see the parallels MXTX was doing, and I was like, I'm here for it. Doesn't quite get as explicit as Modao Zushi. I feel like Modao Zushi, in comparison to this story, now granted, this story is like twice as long as Modao Zushi. Modao Zushi was pretty risque compared to this. Like Xie Lian, if the stuff that Wei Wuxian was doing to Lan Wangji by this point in the story, if that was happening with Xie Lian would self-combust into 1,000 flames. Yeah! At this point in chapter 126, we're at the end of Modao Zushi at this point in the story. We are. Yeah, Modao Zushi ends around this time, around chapter 126. And so by that point, there's some pretty freaky stuff happening in Modao Zushi. And if you've not read it, you should go read it. But yeah, the stuff that Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji would be doing around the same time of this story in Modao Zushi, Xie Lian would just burst into flames. Like, there's no way he could do it. I can't picture Xie Lian being in that position. Hua Cheng? Absolutely. But Xie Lian, he's just getting to the point where he's okay with making out with Hua Cheng. Like, all that other stuff that could potentially be to come. Whew. But yeah, I like the idea that the ghosts all get together and they help Hua Cheng by taking Guzi and try to get Qirong out of the body. I love they're instantly supportive of Hua Cheng. They're like, yes, sir, we'll do whatever we can. And so then Hua Cheng's like, well, you know, the funny thing is, you gave away my reward. And that line, you've given away my reward to the other people. What will I eat tonight? Shut up. I'm just like, I'm like, Qirong, you know, Hua Cheng, you know exactly what you're saying. You know exactly what you're saying. And Xie Lian, I love that Xie Lian's eyebrows just keep raising more and more. He's like, don't change the subject. What are we doing? And so he's like, I can practice the sword, but not calligraphy. If Gege isn't beside me to instruct, I'll go astray practicing all by myself and get worse the more I write. He's so smooth. He just convinces Xie Lian to go with him into the temple of 1,000 lights, to practice calligraphy. And Xie Lian's like, oh, I have to help you because you're just so awful. And he's like, don't tell anyone I taught you how to write. I like that Hua Cheng's like, I tried my best. Like, he's being like sincerely pouting, right? But the sexual tension, I don't know what it is, but MXTX is able to write like sexual tension really well. And the idea of them like in this temple with all these candles and everything and papers scattered about like such, and just them like so close to one another, learning how to write and practicing. And then it just all escalating from there. I was so enthralled by these chapters. And the one thing is that Hua Cheng says, if I like something, my heart will not have room for any other, and I will always treasure it. 1,000, 1,000,000, no matter how many years, it will not change. This poem is the same. So Hua Cheng, he is a long-term commitment guy. He is not flighty when it comes to commitment. Hua Cheng, he is like a mate for life person. He's like, there is only one love for him. And that's all he has room for. Yep. I love that about Hua Cheng, because he's like, if I'm going to be in a relationship, it's long term. Like, we're not messing around. And he's like, I feel like that sounds like a very Taurus thing, where he's like, no, once I'm dead set on this, I'm dead set on this. And so he's like, the poem is exactly the same. And Xie Lian's like, oh, is that right? I like that Xie Lian's like, oh, okay. And so he's like, you're very sentimental. He's like, Qirong doesn't seem to be feeling well lately, so maybe you should just practice by yourself. And I like that Hua Cheng just kind of asks about it. And then Hua Cheng is like, well, when did this start? And around the time that Xie Lian answers him, that's when Hua Cheng drops the pen and everything starts to get crazy. He starts to hold his right eye, which I'm assuming the right eye is the one that is not really supposed to be there, right? So we have chapter 127, which is Mount Tonglu reopens. All the ghosts are aroused. Oh my God. So yeah, so Xie Lian springs forward, and this is the kind of the flowers of temptation. This is the land of the lustrous. It's kind of the reversal, where Hua Cheng is like, no, you stay back. I had to stay back from you before. Now it's your turn to stay back. He's like, no. He's like, if you're to stay here any longer, it said his voice was nothing but gentle. Yeah, he's like, he's just trying to be like, I may do something I'm going to regret if you stay here. Hua Cheng, the last thing he wants to do is like defile or violate or assault Xie Lian. That's the last thing he wants to do. So he's like, you need to leave before I start to get really hyped up, and you don't want me when I'm hyped up. At least not yet, right? And so all the ghosts are like freaking out, except for Qirong, because he has the human barrier to like keep whatever is in Mount Tonglu from affecting him. And honestly, here's the thing. I thought that when Guzi like fell down and was crying, telling him, don't throw me away, take me with you. At first when Qirong was like, get lost, don't follow me, what a nuisance. I thought that he was going to turn around and go get him. I thought it was going to be like a little glimmer of Qirong having a little bit of sentimentality. Of course it's not. His spit flies and hits Guzi on the forehead and knocks him down, which is terrifying. But at that point, the only reason he turns around to go get Guzi, supposedly, is because he's afraid of Xie Lian. And he threatens to cook and kill Guzi, which Xie Lian is like, he's like, I'm not fazed by this threat. Why are you threatening to kill this kid? You're not really going to do that. You would have already if that had been a case. You're a coward. Stop it. But he was afraid of what Hua Cheng was doing as he sweeps everything off the table and onto the ground. And Xie Lian is like, I'm just going to let Xi Rong go so I can deal with Sun Long. Again, Xie Lian chooses to be with Hua Cheng over Xi Rong. Chooses to be with him and protect him rather than his cousin. Like, his cousin gets ditched again by Xie Lian for reasons. But that line, I lied, don't leave me. So Hua Cheng's big thing is that he does not want Xie Lian to leave him. In that moment, he feels very young. He feels in that moment like he's a kid again. Like, it read to me like he was that little kid at the shrine again, asking for Xie Lian to talk to him, asking him to hear his God's voice. And here he's asking Xie Lian not to leave. And Xie Lian is like, okay, he doesn't recognize me. What do I do with this? And Xi Rong, of course, breaks down, realizing what's happened, why everybody's freaking out. And I love that the Ghost City people all defend Hua Cheng. They're like, hey, useless trash, how dare you swear at our Lord? Like, they all decide to chase him. It's great. And Hua Cheng, meanwhile, is like about to blast Xi Rong, and Xie Lian's like, no, don't. He's like, I won't leave you. It's okay. And so Xie Lian shoos Xi Rong away. He's like, if you're going to scram and get lost, I don't have time for you. If you don't get lost, then just wait and see what I'll do. And before he can finish his sentence, though, Hua Cheng, like, grabs him and, like, lifts him into the palace. And Xie Lian's like, oh, no! And Xi Rong, as Hua Cheng is kissing Xie Lian, Xi Rong, like, makes out like a rabbit and gets out of there. He's like, he'll bite whoever he sees. I'm going to go help spread the news. So they might as well come down and take care of him. So, yeah, Hua Cheng is not able to fight. He's in a weakened state. And Xi Rong seemingly has taken this opportunity to seemingly go and get help against Hua Cheng. But I feel like Xi Rong just escaped. He was, like, just saving his own skin and wasn't about to go get anybody's assistance in anything. So I'm assuming he took Guzi with him. I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up with Guzi. We're going to have to put him down on here. So Xi Rong and Guzi are a thing. And then Long Ying, we have no clue. So if we're thinking about, I'm going to put down my theories of who could be the ghost that's going to go into the pit to become a new Supreme. We're going to put our Supreme jackpot over here. Supreme theory time of who it could be. Could it be Long Ying? Long Ying's a ghost. He was left all alone at the Poochie Shrine because Xi Rong and Guzi were taken with Xie Lian and Hua Cheng. So if Long Ying gets attracted to the mountain, could he become the next Supreme? Don't know. We're just going to put him down there. We'll talk about this as well, but they also mentioned Shan Ji as one. I don't see her sticking around for doing that. The fetus spirit! Oh my god. I don't think the fetus spirit is going to become the Supreme Ghost, but what if it did? This creepy little kid voice became a Supreme Ghost? That'd be terrifying. And then they mentioned, like, the immortal brocade. That name sounds familiar, but I don't remember what that is. What about Banyu? Banyu's with the, well, I'm going to put a question mark. Banyu is with the Rainmaster. Surely Banyu wouldn't get attracted to Mount Tonglu. I guess I'm going to have to listen to what Junwoo says, but it doesn't seem like, I guess the ghosts there go on their own volition. They're not automatically attracted to Mount Tonglu, but if you want to go, you go. I want to hear what Junwoo says, because Junwoo gave some lore bombs in his deep, sensuous voice, supposedly. So I want to see that. But yeah, so Xi Rong makes out. He makes like a leaf and he makes like a tree and leaves. And that sets back Xie Lian in the temple with Hua Cheng. And Hua Cheng is like Xie Lian spread out over the Ache of Separation pages they've been practicing on, and is like kissing him as crimson streaks get scattered everywhere. Oh my gosh. And Hua Cheng holds him by the shoulders and kisses him. So Xie Lian at this point believes that this is all just about transferring power. Our sweet, innocent, saintly cinnamon bun being Xie Lian is like, oh, well, it's just him transferring power. That's all, right? But he keeps talking about this warmth spreading through him. And the warmth is it's basically referring to sexual arousal is what's happening. But Xie Lian, who's never experienced that before, he has cultivated that out of his system, doesn't know what that is. And so that heat that's registering within him, it's like the metaphor is that it's the power of Hua Cheng, his extra energy flowing into Xie Lian. But the representation is Xie Lian's getting aroused and he just doesn't quite understand how this works. But yeah, that's, oh my God. It's absolutely insane that Xie Lian and Hua Cheng are just sitting there making out on this table full of like calligraphy items. And so then I like that he can't hit Hua Cheng. He just taps him on the shoulder. And then he decides. Xie Lian comes to a conclusion. Because he tells Song Long to stop. And Song Long does stop. Hua Cheng stops what he's doing and just hugs Xie Lian. Like he just hugs him like he has all this pent-up energy, but he understands Xie Lian's consent and he stops. That's the one thing I love, is that even as Hua Cheng is in the throes of passion and seemingly can't control himself, he manages to stop and let Xie Lian have the reins. He lets Xie Lian take control. And Xie Lian makes a decision that he is going to take the power from Hua Cheng so that he can calm down. And I love how he says, forgive me, every time before he makes out with him. He's just like, I'm so sorry, forgive me. It's like Xie Lian Hua Cheng is not sad that he has to make out with you. Far from it. Quite the opposite. But Xie Lian thinks so little of himself that he feels like it's a burden for Hua Cheng to be kissing him. And it's like, really? And he's like, it wasn't fair. Because, okay, up until this point, Xie Lian has realized that all they've really done is just make out and kiss, and that's been it. And it slowly keeps escalating every time it happens. Every time something sensual happens between them, it escalates a little bit. And before it was just kissing. But now it's like Hua Cheng has his hands like all over Xie Lian's body. And Xie Lian's like, I don't know what to do about this. And so all he can do is hold on to Hua Cheng. And I love how it talks about them like going to the altar. And it's the idea that this divine altar that has Xie Lian's image on the altar, they're like making out and touching each other under it, like this big sinful thing is something the two of them are doing, which for Hua Cheng, making out with your god under a statue of him, does it get any better than that, right? But Xie Lian comes to a very important conclusion, that even though every time it was out of his control and he had no choice, in truth, every time there was a hidden desire he couldn't hold back. And our book phrases it just slightly different in English. It phrases it slightly differently. It says that he came to conclusion, because he tells Hua Cheng he's not going to leave him. And he says, what was that right there? He says the truth was he couldn't resist his feelings every time. So yeah, Xie Lian in that moment kind of comes to terms with, oh, I may be okay with this. And I've been okay with it every time. Huh. Like, but he doesn't want to, tell Hua Cheng that, because he doesn't know that it's mutual. Xie Lian, it's like, whew, like Hua Cheng's gave Xie Lian every clue under the sun, and it just keeps flying past Xie Lian. But he's like, I don't know if it's mutual, so I'm not going to say anything. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so mutual. Right? It's like Xie Lian. But he doesn't want to say anything. So he decides, and he says, after suffering through the entire night, the unsettled energy began to calm down. So, oh, poor Xie Lian, after making out with Hua Cheng and embracing him in slumber the entire night, that felt very Modao Zushi. He finally gets up. And Hua Cheng is like, shit, what did I do? Because the last thing Hua Cheng wants to do is do anything that would violate or hurt Xie Lian. So he's like, oh my God, are you okay? What happened? And Xie Lian's like, oh no, everything's fine. We just had a fight. I'm like, it's not wrong, but I was like, Xie Lian, a fight, you say? And I love how skeptical Hua Cheng is. He's like, are you sure? Nothing else? And Xie Lian's like, oh no. See, you had quite the temper. And I'm like, look how messy this place is. Xie Lian's very good at lying about that sort of thing. And Hua Cheng seems okay with it, just like, I love that he's just like, oh my God, what did I do? It's like he wakes up with a horrible hangover. And then he says that a new ghost king is about to be born. I'm so glad they didn't end the chapter there. When I saw that little line, I thought we were just getting a translation and the chapter was going to end there. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? But no, we luckily get some more exposition. So Xie Lian goes back to the heavenly court. And what's interesting is that the Thunder Master, it says that when a ghost king is about to be born, ghosts cry and gods sound, and the thunder will not stop. That's so creepy that the Thunder Master has to just sit there for 10 years banging a drum. What? That's so crazy. Maybe it's not for 10 years. Maybe it's just before Mount Tonglu closes up again. Who knows? It's just very, very crazy, right? So we see Lan Chuanchu for a hot second. We see Lan Chuanchu, like we see the Water Master's gone, Wind Master's gone, Earth Master's gone. The Rain Master isn't coming because he's staying back where he is. But we do see Lan Chuanchu, and then he leaves Xie Lian without mentioning a word. And I was like, damn it. So, another mystery character is Lan Chuanchu is back. But the sad thing is, it's almost like Lan Chuanchu instantly sees Xie Lian, and then he's like, nope, I've been there, done that, got the trauma, bye, and leaves Xie Lian stuck with nobody to talk to. And that's when Feng Shen shows up. And Feng Shen and Mu Qing, who have both been in a fight with one another, in the last time we saw them, like Feng Shen has a big purple eye and Mu Qing has a swollen cheek. Like they both look like they've been in a big old scuffle, because they have. And Xie Lian's like, man, you guys getting in this fight. I guess they got out of detention. They served their detention time. They're fine. But Junwu has summoned them there for a reason. Junwu is like, we got a problem. We have a supreme that's about to be born. And he says that Mount Tonglu is a natural ominous land, a live volcano that can erupt, and it does, every few hundred years. And the city of Gu within the mountain will open its gates. Millions of ghosts will be affected. It especially affects the previous ghost kings. Every monster, demon, and ghost that thirsts to reach the level of supreme will make their way to Mount Tonglu. So it's not that. So here's the thing. Maybe Long Ying won't go there unless Hua Cheng's suspicions about him are correct. Maybe he won't go there. I don't know if Shanji and the fetus spirit would go there. That'd be super creepy. Don't know what this immortal brocade is. I don't think Qirong is going to Mount Tonglu. I think Qirong could care less. Qirong does not seem like the ghost at all that would want to fight other ghosts, because he'd be afraid he'd lose. So no. But it is good to note that not every monster is going to go there. Only the ones that want to become a supreme. And when there's one remaining, the Ghost King is born. So that's how those two supremes, Crimson Rain Sought Flower and the Ship Singing Blackwater, were born. Bai Wusheng? No clue. Total mystery right now. They emerged from the mountain. The Blackwater spent 12 years there, and Hua Cheng spent 10. And Mu Qing said coldly, they're enough to deal with. Just see what they've done. If another comes along, we won't sleep a wink. And I like how Xie Lian instantly chimes in, like, hey, wait a minute. Xie Lian's like, I can't speak for the Blackwater. We've all seen how that's gone. But Hua Cheng has technically not hurt anybody. We're fine. He hasn't really done anything out of line. And I like that Mu Qing slowly pans over and looks at him like, are you kidding? And Pei Ming is like, wait. Pei Ming's like, did someone say Hua Cheng? Did someone say that? He is quite difficult to deal with. And so Pei Ming has the idea, we need to stop this gathering of millions of ghosts. I love that in true bro fashion, he says, am I right? He's like, we gotta stop these ghosts. Am I right? Does he actually say that in the book? I really hope that he does. Does he actually say that? He says, it took Hua Cheng 10. Yeah, am I right? Oh my God, I love it. And Junwu says, yes, we are preventing that from happening. That's why we're gathered. The gathering of the millions of ghosts will take place in a few months. We will need to stop them before they've gathered. So, the plan is to stop the ghosts from the mountain Stop them from gathering. That's what we got to do. We don't want them to all get there to Mount Tonglu. We got, and it takes a few months, right? So that's the crazy thing. It'll take a few months to gather. So they're on a time clock, right? Then he's like, once they've gathered, Mount Tonglu will be sealed once more and the slaughtering will officially begin. So I don't know if they need millions of ghosts, if they need a certain amount. Like what if 2 ghosts show up? And then that's it. And then like one comes out like 5 minutes later, like, surprise! I imagine that's like Bai Wusheng. Nobody showed up to fight Bai Wusheng. He's like, am I just going to be a supreme without anybody fighting me? Oh my gosh. Like just, I don't know. I want to know more about, now that we've gotten more about Hua Cheng and the Blackwater, I want to know more about Bai Wusheng. And I feel like we did not finish the Shanla story without touching base on what ended up happening with that Long Ying and Bai Wusheng in the past. So I feel like we're going to go back to it eventually. But we have 4, like if we have 4 more volumes to go, very well could happen. So I want to know more about him if we ever get to that point. But yeah, and so I like that Junwu was like, yeah, we're going to stop them. And Xie Lian's like, what if we don't? Is there any way that we rally? And he's like, there is, but we don't want to get to that point. Junwu's like, we don't want to have to get to the point where we have to fight back. That would be bad. We just need to get in the midst of this chaotic wave of aroused ghosts. Many of the demons and stuff that we've had sealed away have escaped. So we need to take care of that. So yeah, lots of things. They're all going to be probably rushing towards Mount Tonglu. They have to be apprehended once more. And so Xie Lian's like, oh crud, that's going to be super chaotic. And so he's like, yes, every martial god has to take heed and investigate their domains. And Xie Lian's kind of like, well, cool, but I don't really have any domains left. So what am I going to do? Who am I going to follow? And I like that he calls himself the god of rubbish, which is so sad. But he's like, he's up to help. He just doesn't know how. And Junwu's like, well, then why don't you go with Qi Ying? That is Chuan Yizhen. And I'm excited about that. Our curly-haired, bedhead, like flustered, not morning person. I'm wondering why he chose Qi Ying. I feel that Junwu believes that probably Qi Ying is the least likely to have qualms with anything. So we have Qi Ying, who is Yizhen, which is the character on the quiz that I supposedly relate most to. So I'm excited about that. But I think that Junwu chose Qi Ying solely because he is not someone that's pompous or pretentious. And so Xie Lian could get him to let him go along with him without any fuss. He'd probably be like, I don't care, come along, let's go. And not fight back, right? So that's my thoughts on the matter, that's what his angle is. He's like, oh, well, he'll let Xie Lian come with him. And that'll be that. But I don't know, y'all. I don't honestly know what we're going to get from Qi Ying, like going to investigate his domain. So the idea is that I'll go down here. So the idea is that there is a few months before the gathering, right? Now, we know that Hua Cheng and the Blackwater do not have to go to Mount Tonglu because they are already supreme ghosts. They do not have to show up. So, unfortunately, the chances of us at Mount Tonglu meeting up with the Blackwater and possibly the Windmaster in tow are not likely, because why would the Blackwater go back to Mount Tonglu? They've been there before, and that's how they became the supreme ghost. Hua Cheng is probably not going to go because unless Xie Lian convinces him to help, like, stop some of the ghosts from getting into the mountain. That'd be the only reason. Although, we'll talk about that in a second. There could be a reason for Hua Cheng to go to Mount Tonglu. So, a few months before gathering, we've got that. We've got that whole deal. A few months before gathering, that every martial god, the idea is that they are supposed to go to their domains and stop the ghosts. And then at the same time, there's been released previously captured, put that on here, previously captured ghosts and demons to apprehend. Right? So that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Fair enough. All right. You can see that. So yeah, yep. So the only thing I can see as the reason why Hua Cheng would go there is if Hua Cheng suspects Long Ying, the kid, as potentially being one that would go up there to become a supreme. I could see Hua Cheng going to Mount Tonglu then. I could see that being a case. I don't see the Blackwater having any reason to go, so I don't think they'll be happening. I don't see Xie Lian as having any reason to go to Mount Tonglu because he does not want to become a supreme. That's too much work. He doesn't want to have to go fight other ghosts. And it sounds like you have to eat the other ghosts to do that. So that's something too. I had never thought of that. One of the things that the Blackwater could have done is they could very well have gone to Mount Tonglu and met the Reverend of Empty Words there and devoured him there. Could be. We don't know. So that's interesting. But yeah, so there's a few months to clean up, and Xie Lian has been entrusted to Qi Ying. Seems like the most reasonable person that Xie Lian could go with because Qi Ying is not going to complain. He's not going to argue like Feng Shen and Mu Qing might. And he seems like he'd be the most supportive person for Xie Lian now that the Windmaster is MIA. So, oh my God, like we got a new Supreme Ghost potentially on the way. But again, I don't think we'll see that new ghost by the time the series ends, so it's just preventing that whole incident from happening. The idea is that we don't want another Supreme Ghost, so we're going to prevent that from occurring, which is rather interesting. So we've got that happening. Hua Cheng and Xie Lian made out, which was a lot of fun, like you do. And we have mysteries surrounding where the Windmaster is. We don't know. We don't know. There's a mystery person that's been luring Xie Lian to all the important cases. We don't know what Lan Chuanchu is going to be up to now. We just know he's back in the Heavenly Realm. The donation box is full of gold bars. We don't know why or by whom. And then Qirong and Guzi, Long Ying, who knows, right? But we still have a nice little chunk of this volume to go. And I feel that it's probably going to be spent mainly with Qi Ying, but we'll see. And Pei Ming's still shipping Hulian, so fun times all around. But yeah, I'm going to be going on to Star Ember's artwork to find a nice shot of our couple Hulian to be on the thumbnail for this week. But yeah. What a crazy bunch of chapters. It feels like the train just keeps moving. MXTX is just like, okay, we got done with one train, now we're going with the next. Hope you all are ready. And it just keeps on chugging from one adventure to the next, which is fine with me. So next week is my birthday, actually, on Monday. My birthday gets to be on Modao Zushi on a MXTX Monday. So, huzzah. But next week, we're going to be looking at chapters 128 through 131. For my birthday, I'm really excited. Get some adventures with Qi Ying, who is the character I supposedly relate to the most. What better birthday gift could that be? I'm excited, y'all, and it's been a nice birthday leading up to this, so fun times all around. But I'm really excited. I hope you all are too. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, hints, or clues. But I can't wait to talk to y'all about these chapters and see what you think. So, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm going to be back really soon with more of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye.